Power looks different for everyone. For you, power might look like being the one who can captivate a group of people with a story and be the center of attention. Or it might be the power to influence what your friend group does over the weekend, or influence how you handle the drama that pops up in the group. Or power might look like having a later curfew or finally getting your driver's license. Or maybe you have an idea of the kind of power you want, but you don't have it yet. The idea of being in a place of power or authority, it can make us feel important, respected, and even intimidating to others. Having power gives us a sense of having a little bit of control, and who doesn't want that? Power and authority have been around from the beginning, and it wasn't designed to be as complicated as sometimes it feels. The opening part of the Bible is called Genesis, the book of origins, who people believe was written by Moses, is about creating all of the things, including human beings. And in it is written something incredibly important when it comes to our idea of authority and power. Check this out. So that they may rule, was written about human beings from the very beginning. According to the writer, humans were literally put on this planet and given authority over the rest of creation. Humans, you and me. We were designed by God to have traits of God. That's what it means to have God's image in us. And it's with the image of God and the likeness that are demonstrated in a practice of our authority. Sounds great, right? Fast forward to today, it's easy to see how humans have used power and authority for good, but it's also easy to see how humans have also turned things upside down from how they were originally intended to be. Power has been used to liberate or help, and it's been used to oppress, harm entire groups of people. Power has been used to bring peace, and it's been used to start wars that have wiped out millions. Power has been used to create resources that meet people's needs, and it's been used in irresponsibility in lots of cases. So even though power was a part of a deal at creation, humans haven't always used it the way that it was intended to be used. But that wasn't the case with Jesus. Jesus turned the idea of having power upside down. Jesus flipped the idea of power upside down in a way that people didn't expect or know what to do with. He did things way differently than religious leaders of his time. Where other leaders fought to be seen as increasingly powerful by putting others down, Jesus chose the opposite. Not only that, he did something none of them could pull off. He was killed by those leaders because they didn't like the way that he did things, but then in the biggest power flex possible, he came back to life. In fact, just so that there were no questions, Jesus actually made it all clear what kind of power he had when he said this. I mean, there's really no room for questions when it comes to Jesus' authority. He's like, hey, just in case you were wondering, after the whole coming back to life thing that I just pulled off, I've been given all authority over everything. This is good news because it means that he is the perfect example of what being powerful looks like. Jesus could have used his power to put others down, but he used it to do things people didn't expect. He set out to create an upside down kingdom where the power was used in a way that God had originally planned for it. In a culture that was used to things being a certain way, it was upside down that he used his power to show that he honored and valued women, to prove that he wasn't okay with corrupt and evil systems, to heal people who were sick, to hang out with the outcasts of society, to forgive people who had wronged him, to include people who most powerful people ignored. He never used his power to make others feel small, hurt, or oppressed. He is an example of power being turned upside down, but also it's the picture of power used perfectly. No matter what you experience or what your experience has been with people in authority, or whether you haven't handled power so well yourself, Jesus' example shows us how power is supposed to be used and what it's supposed to look like. He has all authority, and he has authority that we can follow and model when we're given a little bit of power ourselves. He shows us that power and authority in an upside-down kingdom can and should look like. Jesus turned the idea of power completely upside down. So what does this mean for you and me as we go through life trying to get this power thing right? Well, really the place we can all start is by choosing to rethink the way we think about power and authority. Why? Because whether we're people who push back against the authority in our lives or people who are looking for opportunities to gain more power than we currently have, chances are we have seen or used power in a way that doesn't reflect the way God intended it to be used. So by rethinking it, we can choose to look to Jesus as an example of authority and the way God has intended for power and authority to be used. If you're ready to take a new approach to the way you think about authority, here are a couple of ways to start. Think about Jesus. Before going after power or going against the people who have authority over us, we should think about the things that we talked about that Jesus said and did. We should ask ourselves, what made Jesus a good authority figure? And how did he use his power? Then we'll be better able to know what to do when we're given power of any kind. We'll also know the kinds of authority figures worth following. Then, once you've thought about Jesus' example, you can rethink how to use the power that you have. Chances are you have at least some power and some influence. Think about ways that you can leverage your power for good. Maybe you can be the one to invite the loner kid at school into the conversation. Maybe you can use your influence to stop the joke when someone else is getting hurt by it. Maybe you can be the person who puts an end to the gossip and shuts down rumors. Don't just talk about it in small group, be about it in real life. Rethink about the authority figures in your life. Take some time to think about the coaches, teachers, parents, small group leaders, bosses, and whoever else seems to have some kind of authority in your life. Maybe you love the way that they use their power, or maybe you don't. Either way, learn to look for good. Look for the positive things in who they are and the way that they use their authority that they have. Maybe they believe deeply in your potential. Maybe they defend you when you need it most. The truth is that authority can be annoying, but when you think about it, the example that Jesus gave us and you line up with it, the ways that people around you use their power and the things, do they match up? By rethinking about the authorities in your life, you can change the way that you see them or even change the way that you treat those with power moving forward. Now, just to be clear, this does not mean that you should ignore the reality of harmful authority or harmful ways that people use their power. There is a difference between authority that's annoying and authority that's harmful. You may be annoyed that your mom is using her power to ask you to take out the trash, but she's not bad for doing this. In fact, she's using her power to teach you responsibility, as lame as it may feel. But anyone who uses their powers in ways that are harmful to you or someone else, this is not using authority in the ways that align with Jesus' example. In fact, Jesus spoke out against this kind of authority time and time again. So yes, we may be annoyed with those in authority or even find ourselves wanting power in ways that might not be beneficial, but we can be confident in that Jesus is the perfect example of power and authority and the way that they were intended to be used. We use power in an upside down way as we go about our day-to-day lives, and as we get older and find ourselves in positions of authority more often, we can choose to rethink the way that we think about power and authority. And when we do, we may see our perspectives on people like our parents, guardians, bosses, teachers, coaches will begin to change. And when we look for the good in our teachers, we may find our class gets better. When we see our coaches in a positive light, we may find ourselves running harder and less tempted to talk back to them. When we see our parents and the sacrifices they made for us, taking out the trash won't feel so annoying. Plus, we'll have a better picture of what good authority is supposed to be like when we're in positions of authority and power someday. So why not start to rethink the way that you think about authority and power today?